A very warm greeting to all the viewers. I am Mukta Tiwari, Assistant Professor, BA Department, IIMT College of Science and Technology, Greater Noida. The topic for today's live session is psychology and its approaches. So let's begin the session. So what is psychology? Psychology is the scientific study of mind and behavior. This is according to the American Psychological Association. Psychology is a multifaceted discipline and includes many subfields of study, such areas as human development, sports, health, clinical, social behavior, and cognitive processes. Now, history. Psychology is not a very old subject. Psychology is a new science with most advance happening over the past 150 years. However, its origins can be traced back to ancient Greece around 400 to 500 BC. The ancient civilization of Egypt, Greece, China, India, and Persia all engaged in the philosophical study of psychology. The emphasis was a philosophical one, with great thinkers such as Socrates influencing Plato, who in turn influenced Aristotle. Now, meaning and definition. So, the word psychology derived from the Greek word psyche, which means for spirit or soul. The later part of the word psychology derived from logia, which means study or research. In its Latin form, psychologia, it was first employed by the person whose name was Marco Morelli in his book, which was Psychology and on the Nature of Human Soul in the decade of 1510 to 1520. The first letter, that is psi of Greek word from which the term psychology is derived, is commonly associated with the field of psychology. Now, how this psychology word started, what is the evolution of this subject psychology? So initially psychology used to assume as a science of soul. So in ancient days, the Greek philosopher like Plato and Aristotle interpreted psychology as a science of the soul and studies it as a branch of philosophy. But soul is something metaphysical. It cannot be seen, observed, and touched. And we cannot make scientific experiment on soul. So this theory that psychology is the science of soul has been discarded. So the new theory originated, that is psychology as a science of mind. It was the German philosopher E. Kant who defined psychology as the science of mind. In 1892, William James defined psychology as the science of mental processes. But the word mind is quite ambiguous, as there was confusion regarding the nature and the function of mind. So, you also cannot touch mind, or you cannot study mind. You cannot assume what your mind is thinking. So this theory has always also been discarded. So the next evolution was that the psychology as a science of consciousness. So modern psychologists define psychology as the science of consciousness. James Sully defines psychology as the science of the inner world. W. Wundt in 1892 defined psychology as the science which studies the internal experience. But there are three levels of consciousness, as we know, that is conscious, subconscious, and the unconscious. And so this definition also was not accepted by some. So the new theories come, that is psychology as a science of behavior. At the beginning of 20th century, when psychologists attempted to develop psychology into pure science, it came to be defined as the science of behavior. The term behavior was popularized by J.B. Watson. Other exponents are William McDougall and W.B. Pillsbury. According to R.S. Woodworth, first psychology lost its soul, then it lost its mind, and then lost its consciousness. It still have behavior of soul. Now, the key aspect of psychology. So, it is a scientific investigation. That means there are experiments, there are numbers, there is data, there is sampling, there is rigorous use of psychological tools, descriptions, predictions, logical criticism, systematic observation, and beyond all, it is evidence-based. So it belongs to science, because all these things which I have said earlier was also used in pure science. Next, psychology looks at all kind of people and social group, animals included. So it is the study of mind and behavior of everything included. So it's all psychology include all the living organism of our earth. The psychology is the science of mind and behavior. It is the mental and behavioral characteristic of individual or group. So psychology is the study of mind and behavior in relation to particular field of knowledge or activity. Psychology is the scientific investigation of how people behave, think, or feel. So psychology investigate if you are doing something, what is the reason, what is the motive behind this? If you are thinking this in this way, what is the reason that you are thinking this thing in this manner? It includes underlying mechanism that involve the environment, biology, and the mind. Psychological investigation try to describe, predict, analyze, and create actionable outcome that help peoples. Actionable outcome include therapy, learning design, altering protocols at a workplace, etc. Today, psychology is closely related to fields such as cognitive sciences, neurosciences, economics, law, and public health. So we can understand the psychology penetrate in all the domain of our society. Now, as we have said, the psychology is the study of behavior of any living organism. So now the question arises, how we can define behavior, how we can understand what is behavior. So behavior is your response to a situation with which you are confronted. Behavior may be internal, that is covert, or external, that is overt. Any behavior which can be observed, interpreted, and evaluated in external behavior, like physical movement, your gesture, your facial expression, your body language, the way we walk, the way we talk, and the other behavior like this. So internal behavior refers to our thoughts, our feelings, which can be observed directly. Action is external, but motive is internal. For every action, there is corresponding motive. No action is motiveless. There may be different motives which generate the same action. A motive may cause different action. Research studies focus more on internal behavior than on external one. Psychologists who attempt to modify or redefine external behavior must investigate and identify the corresponding internal behavior. Then only their attempt will be effective. Psychologists view human behavior as a result of inside force or outside forces. Inside forces refers to need, wants, your desire, your interest, attitude, feeling, and the likes. Outside forces refers to attractive or disturbing aspect of situation, attitudes, and expectation of others. Social approval or rejection, reward, danger, threat, and so forth. So psychologists identify three domains of behavior. First one is cognitive domain, which is related to your intellectual activities. Affective domain, which is mostly related to your feelings, your emotion, your attitude, and like this. And psychomotor domain, which is related to your acting or doing your motor activities previously, which is also known as cognitive domain. Now, approaches to behavior. What are the approaches? So first one is neurobiological approaches. This is the approaches of physician, medical scientist, and biological scientists. The human brain, which is known as central nervous system, is the most sophisticated computer system. Psychologists who employ neurobiological approach to study human behavior try to identify a point in the central nervous system, especially in the brain, for any human behavior to be associated with. For any change in that behavior, that is appearance or disappearance, improvement or decreases, the particular part or point is to be treated through medicine or exercise. For example, the role played by temporal lobe in memory through memory trace, the role played by hypothalamus in emotion, and so on. However, this approach is not in a position to change human behavior completely in a severe situation. The next one is behavioristic approach. Behaviorist means external behavior when they use term behavior. According to them, only those behavior which can be seen or observed by others are verified, and hence they only constitute the study of psychology. They believe in conditioning like classical conditioning and or instrumental conditioning. They believe in shaping behavior as advocated by Skinner. They advocate intensive training and physical occupation like rigorous physical exercise as a modes of modification of behavior. Some psychologists call it a black box approaches to human behavior since it doesn't take into account that goes on inside the organism, that is human mind, which according to them is largely responsible for behavior. Now the cognitive approaches. The focus of cognitive psychologists is entirely on cognitive process like perception, imagination, thinking, and reasoning. In addition to those processes, behavior is caused by affective process, that is feeling, your emotion, your drive, your urge, etc. Hence, any approaches to study human behavior entirely on cognition is more likely to be effective. Now, psychoanalysis. Freud and his follower highlighted the role of the unconscious mind in human behavior. We do agree that there are behavior which are caused by unconscious impulses, but we cannot attribute all behavior to unconsciousness. So many of our unconscious behavior are directly guided by our unconscious thinking. So this is psychoanalytical approach of our behavior. Further, any psychiatrist will be in a position to identify the unconscious motive or drive which is instrumental to particular behavior. Psychoanalysis is theoretically interesting, but in practice extremely difficult. So we cannot understand what our unconscious or subconscious mind is thinking. Now, the humanistic approach. Humanistic psychologists have soft corner for human being. Freud observation is man is basically bad driven by infrahuman motives. he is to be sublimated and refined. Humanistic psychologists are of the opinion man is basically good. It is the environment that makes or mars him. Their focus is on the current motive and drive. What has happened right now? Right now, their approach is also called here and now approach. They give least importance to genetic influence, historic roots, or the unconscious motive. Counselor of the day employ humanistic approach to study and modify human behavior. Now, modern approach is integrated in nature, a judicious mixture of the most appropriate one depending upon the nature of the person, the nature of the problem, the nature of the circumstances, and such other related factors. These approaches are not contradictory but complementary. Now, the function of the psychology. So, there are many branches where psychology serve their services. The first one is clinical psychology. In clinical psychology, we study assessment, prevention, coping, and treatment of mental health issues and disorders such as depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, etc. Organizational and industrial psychology. Here, we study of how professional environment function with respect to employment, assessment and recruiting, workplace well-being, conflict resolution, team building, etc. Social psychology. Here we study of how people interact in social context and what variable affect social behavior, identity, and cognition. Cognitive psychology is the study of mental process that enable thinking, feeling, language, art, etc. Behavioral psychology. Here we study the behavior of human as well as animal. Developmental psychology. Here we study the specific factor relevant to certain age group or developmental stage across a lifespan and trend across the lifespan. Evolutionary psychology. Here we study of human and animal behavior in an evolutionary context and the study of adaptability and deeply rooted tendencies. Now, the forensic psychology. Here we study of how criminals behave and think. Next is neuropsychology, where we study the assessment of brain functioning in a clinical setting. Positive psychology, where we study of well-being and living in a good life. And neuroscience, where here we study of the brain as a biological unit, and it specifies that may or may not directly related to behavior, thought, or feelings. It includes an understanding of how neurons communicate and function. Sports psychology. Here we study the training and coping of sportsmen. School psychology. Here we study a variety of psychological variables in a school context. It is also known as educational psychology. Cyber psychology. Thus, here we study of human behavior with a focus on internet-based behavior, which is very common nowadays. Or we can say which is very relevant in today's era. Now, method of study. So how we study the thinking approach of any person. So the first one is introspection. It is self-observation, looking within or looking inward. To introspect means to attend to working of one's own mind in a systematic way. Mental experiences are observed as and when they occur, and attempts are made to understand their nature so that generalization can be made. The results of introspection are usually subjective. They are not scientifically valid. Next one is extrospection or observation. While introspection is subjective, extrospection is objective. We observe the mental process of other by observing their behavior, that is overt behavior and motor reaction. Then we want to study the experience of individual not only from the point of view of overt expression, but from the point of view of their inner impression, feeling. This method will have serious limitation. There are different kind of observation, that is direct and indirect, scheduled and unscheduled, participant and not participant. To make observation purposeful and meaningful, the observer should specify the objective of observation in a clear and operational term. Next one is experimental method. Experiment is observation under controlled condition. Modern psychologist science is largely based on experimental method. It is not able to depend wholly on this kind of method used by exact science because of the subject matter of psychology, the human being. Experiment consists of objective observation of action performed under rigidly controlled condition. So the purpose of experiment is to study the behavior of any person in a controlled condition. Now the case study. A case study is also known as the case history of individual because it is the analysis of the most important aspect of individual. The analysis is in the form of past record, present position, and future possibilities. The objective of case study is to study the individuals or the group to diagnose specific problem and suggest remedial measures. The complete and detailed study of a case may involve the use of observation, interview, medical examination, and use of various tests in intelligence, interest, aptitude, and personality. Case study may involve a group of individuals, an institution, or a psychological phenomena, and the like. Now, survey. Case study is intensive, whereas survey is extensive. With the application of psychology to various aspects of life, it has become necessary to collect data from a large number of people, attitudes, belief, prejudice, and the like. So, this is all. Thank you so much.